Hi, everybody. Welcome to the QB School. I am JT O'Sullivan. Today, fired up for this X's and O's. We've got a little Air Raid 95 or 95 Y Cross. Very excited. Been waiting a long time to do this one. Lock in. Let's get it going. Welcome to the QB School. So before we dive into the video, a quick reminder about the Quarterback School Patreon community. This group is the foundation, the bedrock of the channel. Not only is it a great, cheap way to support the channel, but you get even more Quarterback School content. So for instance, this video, there is no film at the end of this thing to kind of show the video clips, cut-ups of 95 or 95 Y Cross. If you want to see those cut-ups, you got to hop over to the Quarterback School Patreon community. I appreciate your support. Normally I say the link is in the video description, but it is not. We have a new website that is linked in the video description. So get over there, check out the new website as well. Have an Ask Me Anything question that can go back and kind of hone the video library to have all sorts of different answers about any of your football questions. So get over there, check out the new website, become a patron. I appreciate your support. As for this video, let's get into it. So the first image we're going to look at here is the oldest one I could find. Just a little Google search for you, 95 Air Raid. Blue right, 95. Okay, now blue right is the Air Raid formation, split back, 2x1. 95 is the play we're going to be talking about. 95 specifically Y Cross. Now, there's a lot of things in this image. Okay, a lot of things we're not going to spend a lot of time on. But what I want to just go through is kind of my interpretation of the original drop back read for this. Okay, so first thing paying attention to quarterback-wise here from gun, 3-step. Now, the read will, I'm going to call it evolve, but I don't want you to get hung up on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yet. Okay, we will eventually get there. We're going to spend the most amount of time talking about the crosser route, but I briefly want to talk about just the timing of this play and kind of the original drop back read. So the first thing to notice here is the 1 is this go to the weak side. Okay, now the first thing before we even get into the read is this idea, in my mind, this play is designed as a weak side flood. So there are 3 eligibles to this side, 2 eligibles to this side. The passing strength is over here. The offense is flooding the weak side, right, in some iteration. Okay, so that's the first part of it, a weak side flood play. Often run one way for all you OGs out there, Pirates, okay, certs, meaning that we're doubling the reps. So it's always going to be left to right or right to left, however it hits you. The read is coming to the quarterback starting left. Everything is coming into your vision that way. Now, you don't have to run it that way, but I'm just saying that's how it's often run and taught. And I'll talk about some of that at the very end of the video. But the first thing to pay attention to, and I'm going to go real quick on these routes. This is a must outside fast release. So what does that mean? Real quickly, just take a peek here. This is an old school image, but look at the detail of these releases. This is a must outside, more must outside, release, go. He's the first read. He's got to go and win and clear out. If he doesn't win, he's got to clear that thing out. On the backside, later in the progression, he can take his time on this backside, post, in, curl, over, whatever you want to run on the backside. So the first part here is these wide receivers, they got to know where they are in the progression. They got to know how quick they got to get through these. So it's a fast, must outside, release, go. Must outside because he's got to clear that thing out. We want those zone defenders to work to the sideline to widen for this underneath option, quick out, and the crosser. Okay, now we're not going to talk a lot about this route. I'll just say in general, there's someone in the flat. Okay, now not always. Don't freak the hell out. I know a Pirate that used to run like a little bit more of an option-y sail type thing by the number 2 that we might talk about later. But in general, there will be something in the flat to pull that flat defender. Now what we want to talk about, this crosser. All right, so this is the Y cross element of this. Okay? You don't have to be a detective to figure out why it's called Y cross. Now, there is a lot of nuance, a lot of detail, a lot of coaching points that we're going to talk about right now on this thing. Okay, so just because I say it doesn't mean that it's the only way it's run. Okay, but I just want to go through kind of the overarching coaching points on this thing, because this thing, to me, looks like someone vomited up every single way you can possibly run a route. And I don't think it's necessarily run like any of these are drawn. Okay, now again, this is a dated image, but I'm just going to go through how I think it's most often taught. And then at the end, I'll talk about how I specifically taught it. The first thing here, now, oftentimes this is detached like a 2x2 or detached to wide receiver, but we're going to go under the first linebacker. So I'm going to put a Sam there. I'm going to put a Mike here. We're going to go under the first linebacker and we're going to go over the second linebacker. Okay, so just under, over. Now, is it always under, over? No. Okay, there's lots of different ways why it wouldn't be under, over. Another way I know people talk about it is over the second linebacker. Okay, so however you ID these second level players, I don't really care what you call them, we got to get over that second guy. And once we get over this Mike player, or even with this Mike player, this crosser can expect the ball. So it can come anywhere. And again, you don't have to be a genius here to figure out we got a lot of different options about what the hell's going on with this route. Okay, so again, let me just say it for the people in the back. Under, over. Okay, that's kind of the path you'll see. Now, is it man or is it zone? If it's man, you have really two options in most of these crossing routes. You can just run away with him because you're faster than him. Or I think the better way to do it is to do what a lot of people call stair step, where you come up, give him something, and then come flat. What you don't want to do in most systems is drift like this in man, because that allows the defender to undercut you. Okay, so again, I might not love this drawing of the man, but the flat element of it is right on. So just imagine under, over, flat. That's what it's going to look like in man. Now, in zone, we got a bunch of different options. Wide ass open zone, we're going to go under. Maybe it's Tampa. Maybe the Mike runs out of there. We can't go over him. Guess what we're going to do? Settle up. Okay, so we can settle up. I think oftentimes it's around 10 yards. Now, again, why you wouldn't want to settle up if you're wide open right here is because you have to know where you are in the progression. The quarterback is looking at this go route first, so he's not going to be able to get to you that quick. So oftentimes you'll hear the coaching point be, you can settle up around 10-ish yards. Okay, so under, over, settle. Now, other zones. I think the other coaching point that you want for this crosser is often, what is this weak safety doing? Okay, so however you identify it, free safety, weak safety, whatever safety is to the, not the passing strength. Okay, so is this free safety staying in quarters? Is this free safety getting to the half field? Is this free safety rotating to the middle of the field? Is he rotating down? What is this safety doing? So you got to have some feel. You got to have some high football IQ to run this crossing route. So based on what he's doing, we want to try to gain as much grass as possible. So under, over, where's this free safety? Okay, if he's getting out of there, then we can just settle up. Come in here, whoop. Is he coming down, into the hook, into the curl, into the flat? Well, then we want to gain depth. Okay, so there, it's very run and shoot-ish, in my opinion. Okay, so that's man, zone, open, closed. What is the weak safety doing? Then the other part about it, you guessed it, what are we going to do if it's hot? Now, my favorite way to do it is to just come off and run a slant. But back in the day, they ran like an old school drag or shallow. Now, we'll talk about some of the cons of this play later. But if you know the channel, you should immediately something should be triggering in your head with blitz over here with this route and the number one read over here. So getting a shotgun snap, looking over here for your number one, but your hot is over here, equals not good, in my opinion. And again, they didn't ask me when they installed this. But we're just going through some of the what's going on with this route. There's a hell of a lot going on with this. Blitz, zone, man, open, close. What is this weak safety doing? Okay, so that's the crosser. That's kind of why you're here. That's what this is where all the reps are in this route, trying to figure out what the hell's going on. The other coaching point that I really like, that I had mentioned by a few people, is for this Mike or middle linebacker type, Once you're under and you're pushing at this guy, you want to push this guy vertically. You want to threaten him vertically to get across. You don't want him thinking, oh, I'm going to run shallow like a double move. We're trying to get this guy. You're running at his upfield shoulder, get him going vertical, and then snap it across. Okay, and then finally, what's on the backside? This is a whole different kind of conversation, but it's worth understanding. We got time on the release. I don't think there's necessarily a right answer on the backside. I think most people run it with a curl or a post curl or a deep hook that has a lot of flexibility here as far as what's going on. And we'll talk about why we have that flexibility a little later. But on the backside, this backside number one, it will be tagged sometimes post for a red zone shot. It can be anything you want it to be. But you can see the progression left to right all the way across, and then this check down as kind of the number 5. Good luck with that. All right, that makes sense. So again, all the bones are buried right here on this, how this crosser works. Now, I'm really going to blow your mind, and I've been on this image for too long, but I want to talk about it right now. This read to me is funky as hell. Okay, and what I mean by that is oftentimes you'll see it 2x2 with a quick out here. So let's imagine that's the play. So this guy's not in the backfield. 2x2 here. But even if he's in the backfield here, you can see the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, I'm telling you, it's very difficult to go a check option to the back to a backside in or curl. That's just really difficult. Now, how you'll hear a lot of air raid gurus explain it to you is you want to peek this vertical, must outside release vertical, and then you want to get your eyes to Y. So we're going to get our eyes to Y, and we're going to see what he's doing. So if he's not open, so how he's covered is going to dictate where the next route is. So it's got a little of like Hank-ish vibes as far as how you get through the read. So what I mean by that is if the flat defender, or we'll say the hook defender down here, if he's dropping and taking away the cross, that means the quick out or the flat or the option is going to be there. If someone is running from the backside, like say a safety, down safety, or a linebacker type is running with this guy, well, then that probably means the backside curl or in is going to be open. So that's what they mean when they say how the crosser is covered is going to dictate where the next read is. So it's not really true 1, 2, 3, 4. It's almost 1, 2, 3, or 3B. And that to me makes a little bit more sense. So again, it's really tough to go tick, 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 all the way across, but it's not hard to go 1, 2, how's he covered? Okay, over here. 1, 2, how's he covered? Check it down. That makes sense to me. So again, lots of information right here. Lots of different ways to do this. The overarching things are under, over the second linebacker type, expect the ball. Is it man or zone? You got to have a great feel. You can settle if you're wide ass open. If you're zone, you want to keep gaining depth if you can away from that weak safety. If it's man, we expect you to flatten out and separate. And there you go. Y cross. Here you go. Very similar drawing. A little bit different detail here in the actual drawing element of it. I added this specifically, if you want to pause this thing and go back and read the coaching points that were back in the day. I'm not going to sit here and do video karaoke for you, but I think it's interesting to be able to see how they used to talk about it, describe the different routes and reads. So the next thing I want to talk about is what Y cross is not in this video. So depending on the system you're at, okay, and this is not a news flash, different words can mean different things. So in the West Coast world, Y cross is a different type of route. And we're going to talk about the different types of crosses right now. So I think, and this is not just West Coast, but any offense will often have the word cross in some element of it, whether it's a blocking scheme, route descriptions, route detail. And oftentimes cross means just an in route. Okay, so if we're going to come up and run a cross route, back in the day, for me, this was also referred to as a hunt route. And the reason you would be called a hunt route is because as you run this cross or in, you can kind of hunt up the openings in these zones. So you can see here, not all of these crosses are the same. So this doesn't look anything like under, over, get to this certain depth. And I didn't mention the depths on those routes, so I need to, the next time we look at one of the images of the actual air raid Y cross. But right here, this is just what oftentimes is referred to as a basic cross. So it's just an in route in the West Coast world, but you can settle on this iteration of Y cross. All right, this next version is what I'm used to calling a middle field read. Okay, middle field read. It's still a basic or a cross potentially versus middle field closed. Again, this is West Coast world. This is the double world. So Fox 2 is just a protection. Double go is the concept. We got doubles on the outside, and then the number 2 has this middle field read. So middle field open, we're going to come up and take the post or split them. Middle field close, we're going to run that basic cross. And again, basic cross, you can hunt up the opening. So there's some overlap as far as man, zone, we can settle, we can't settle. But again, that doesn't look anything like under, over, settle over here, running up here, those types of things. So there's all sorts of detail and nuance that is different. We are not talking about basic crosses. All I'm talking about in describing and showing is the difference here among a bunch of high-level offenses, how they run and talk about crosses or basics. This next one is a true basic. So we've been showing crosses, which gave the ability to settle up in the West Coast world in zone. This is going to be a true basic. So a true basic is, hey, we're getting up there in this offense and we are running an in and we are not stopping. Okay? Do not settle. Stay friendly versus man. All that means is don't drift up the field. Don't run this thing like a banana. You want to stay friendly to the quarterback, nice and flat. Okay, so again, just showing these for you to get the appreciation of, hey, what exactly are we talking about? And then, hey, there's a bunch of universal football terms that kind of bleed together. So a true basic, we are up. We can't stop in zone. We got a basic in. We're running that thing across. We are not settling. Same old school West Coast playbook here. This shows a true basic cross. Now it's a little bit funky as far as how they're getting it with the zebra croc or however they described it, with a little switch release with the corner. And then we're going to get this switch up basic cross. But the reason I'm showing it is, again, because these terms are interchangeable in many offenses. Basic, cross, they're not similar. It's cross-ish, I guess, to Air Raid 95 or 95Y cross. But it's worth showing so many different ways to talk about a lot of similar-ish concepts, but not 95Y cross. Now, again, we're going to stay in the same book, and this is going to be probably a little bit more familiar to you. This is what West Coast world, many offenses will call a deep cross. So we talked about a basic cross, which is true 12 to 14 yard in. This is more deep cross. This is much closer to 95Y cross. Now, this is more play action. Not that 95Y cross can't be run out of play action, but we're talking about a drop back. But for this route, deep cross to me is much more similar to Air Raid Y cross. So oftentimes they'll teach under over, and then the landmarks are really similar. So I didn't talk about the landmarks in the original video. That was my error. Oftentimes you'll hear it referred to as 22 yards or 18 to 22 yards if you run out of bounds, and then 15 to 18 when you cross the far hash. Now, again, that's college with wider hashes, right, than the league. You notice how tight these league hashes are. Oftentimes that 95Y cross is a college, high school type play. And so you're going to hit that thing at 15 on the opposite hash or 22 if you run out of bounds. Now, when I taught it, and you'll see my images at the end of this thing, I taught it 20 yards on the numbers. I just thought it was easier for our guys, 20 yards on the numbers. It doesn't really matter what the landmark is, but this deep cross is, again, very similar to the Y cross, in my opinion. You can see their coaching points in Green Bay. Get on top of the linebackers as fast as possible. You're going to see the man flatten out element of it. You're going to see the zone, landmark, trying to get to 16 to 18 on the opposite numbers. Again, it happens a little faster on Sundays. What you don't see is a lot of what I would consider the run and shoot elements of this. You don't see hot over here. You don't see, totally different stem over here. You don't see the capacity to set it down right here. Now, Kelsey does stuff that I would say is more run and shoot-ish, but most tight ends, most wide deep crosses are not going to be able to do that. This is also what you're most probably going to see on Sundays as far as the big post, the true cross, the deep cross, and then the deep in. So again, everything's a little deeper in the league. Everything happens a little faster. Throws are a little further down the field. But again, you can see here, this looks a hell of a lot more like Y cross than Y basic, Y cross in the West Coast world. And again, just to show, as many of these guys go through their careers, if you're air raidy early on, high school, college, you get to the league and now you got Y deep cross. Oh, I know how to play Y cross. Well, totally different kind of, not totally different intent of the play, different coaching points, different personnel, different ways to do it. Here's that deep cross again in the league. Now, Z deep cross, in my mind, true air raidy guys will struggle in their mind to even do the mental gymnastics to be able to run Y cross or H cross back the other way. They feel like they've got so many reps involved of this guy doing it, getting over here, making that read, getting that feel for what that route looks like. Well, in the league, you're going to run everything to both sides. There's not going to be a whole lot of one-way plays very often, or one guy doing it. So the Z doing it here could easily be the X. Doesn't really matter who's who in the zoo. But again, the intent of the play really doesn't change, right? You've got a 1 on the opposite side, whatever it is, double move, post, corner, flag, pylon, I don't care what it is. And then you've got that some version of a cross, whether it's deep cross, whether it's Y cross, coming into that 20-ish window, 15 to 22 window, making a man zone read. It's similar, but certainly doesn't look like the drop back air raid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 type of stuff, right? It's much more 1, 2 run, 1, 2 shot, 1, 2 check down type of the NFL world. Right on cue, here it is, same deep cross, but now it's with a pylon. And all pylon means is, a different way to run a flag or a corner. You're going to set that thing to the back pylon of the end zone. Again, different ways they talk about it, alert, 1, whatever. You can see the coaching points are kind of the same, right? Get on top of the linebackers as fast as possible. What did we say on the original one? Under Sam, over Mike. As soon as you get past Mike, look for the ball. You can settle. You can get depth. You can run away versus man, all those types of things. It's pretty similar. Now, again, you don't have all day. You're not seeing a lot of drop 8 on normal down and distance. This is 7-person protection, 8-person protection, really. Shot, 2 people out, big time play down the field, a little bit more Sunday-ish. All right, so far we've talked about the basic or the basic cross. To me, they're synonymous in the West Coast world. We talked about the deep cross. It's supposed to be an E. Okay, a little bit more Y crossy. And now we're going to talk about the over. Okay, so the over can look very similar on film. Okay, so you can see this thing here. We're just running this thing over. Now it's a little bit shallower. Okay, and normally, whatever the landmark is, coaching points don't change. Get behind the linebackers. Trying to show up for the quarterback, usually around 15, 12 to 14 in this book. Now, this get on playing with the quarterback is why this thing isn't quite as deep as a true deep cross. So when I consider an over route versus a cross route, and this is just my opinion, take it for what it's worth, but you're watching the video, so you probably care a little. An over to me is tethered to a naked or a keeper, meaning we're moving the launch point. Okay, so an over and get on playing with the quarterback, what that means is you want to be lined up with the quarterback. So when the quarterback is here, you want to be in line with him. That's what get on playing with the quarterback means. So if you were to run this thing more like Y crossy, you'd be behind the quarterback if he was moving because this route takes longer. Okay, so an over to me is a little bit more shallow. The depth is going to be shallower, and you're going to be more worried about being on playing with the quarterback as opposed to, you wouldn't want to settle up here per se. It's a little bit less run and shoot as far as all the different options. You're certainly not worried about being hot over here. Those types of things go away. So just understanding and appreciating the difference, right? So basic, deep, and now over. 3 versions of a cross that we, ironically, are not going to be talking about the rest of the video, but now you know the difference and can make sense of it depending on what system you're in or fluent in. Halftime, you dig the channel and you haven't already, please like, subscribe, hit the bell, get the notifications. I sincerely appreciate you subscribing to the channel. It really does mean a lot to me, so thank you for taking the time and doing that. Again, the Quarterback School Patreon community, you know about it. Join, become a member. We also have quarterback school courses. These courses are the premium content available through the channel. These are deep dives on my favorite football topics: RPOs, tempos, pass protection, how to beat every coverage is the best-selling course. We even have an entire offensive system available for you. So get over there, check those out. Again, normally I say linked in the video description, but now they're over at the website. So check out the new website where you can get and enroll in all of the courses. You can also check out all the free resources at the new website. So get over there, check that out. Make sure to follow me across social media platforms. As for this video, let's get back to it. So this next set of drawings we're going to talk about are more in this video for not only kind of the clean version, kind of old school vibe of these drawings, but also for the tags. So tags mean different things to different systems. We're going to talk about the tags for this specific play. I'm not going to pretend to tell you that I'm certified or a guru. I do think you should start to get a little bit of an understanding of the timing of this thing. So again, this is an old school Valdosta State. Still chaps me that they hijacked a couple Harlan Hills from me, but besides for that, slowly healing. There's that number 1, right? On the go. Here's that crosser with the number 2. Here's that choice or option by the back to this side at a blue. There's that backside. They run it with like a post over, and there's that check swing. So this is kind of the original, in my mind, original at a 2x1, how they're going to run 95. Here it is with the read. Okay, quarterback centric here. You can see it. Thanks a lot. If you can count to 4, you can play for Valdosta State in 2000. Okay, 3-step from gun, 1, 2, 3, 4. I would say normally right across the field, but it's not really right across the field. But again, if you're into the coaching points, there they are for you. So here's our first tag. They're going to tag X post. So now instead of a go, it turns into that X post. Now, I've tried to be really explicit by saying that we are talking in this video about drop back stuff. If you get into play action stuff, so let's just pretend that we were running, instead of that choice, we're running the back across this way. You'll hear some really smart people. Okay? So a lot of people that I have a lot of respect for in football say that the read changes to now the Y is number 1, and then whoever is covering the Y, so if the safety, say the middle field safety or that quarter safety comes down on the crosser, then we want to throw this thing behind it. I'm not going to tell you that's a good idea. I would honestly read it the opposite, but they get paid a lot of money to coach football and to talk about it and share it. And so it's worth understanding that it can change in the play action world, how a lot of these air raid gurus talk about this play. But for me, this is just an example of how you can change the play a little bit just by tagging something. So 95, if we didn't say X post, he'd have a go, right? But now he's got the X post, so it turns into that. Now again, what the drawing meant back in the day, only Valdosta State can tell you. Okay, but for me, it's just a different iteration on the same type of play. Okay, the next tag we're going to talk about is Z post. So now it's a post on the backside, and they make it as like a peak read. So in my opinion, this type of play is probably a little bit more common than drop back post over here. So you hit them with a peak over here. What would that be good for? To me, I think of this as like a high red zone play, quarters beater, where you get this kind of strong safety coming down on this crosser, and now all of a sudden you got a one-on-one opportunity to the post, and that would be that peak element of it. But again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So just being able to sort through what changes with the tag and how you would go through it as kind of a game plan-y kind of change up in the air raid system. And finally, 95 double under, just in case you don't get enough mesh or you love checkdowns even more, you can get a little check down with Y cross, a little meshy Y cross. Couldn't help myself. I'm sorry, certs. Okay, I'm not going to go through how the hell you possibly read it like that, but the bones of the play are the same, right? Go, crosser, how's the cross being covered? Mesh-ish, backside in, backside route, whatever it is. Right? That all looks the same. It presents the same, a lot of same as, with just a different tag here to get a little meshy. All right, so now we're going to get a slightly more modern. Okay, this is recent-ish. Oklahoma. Obviously, that staff's not there anymore. But the type of play, this is how I think of this play as modern air raid. Okay, so the number 1 is that must outside release fast go. The number 2 is running quick out. The number 3 has the cross, right? Under, over, make that read, zone, man, runaway, all those types of things. On the backside here, you can see Oklahoma, Lincoln Riley and company were running more post curl. Okay, so just different iterations. A more modern, this is how I think of this play being run. So ace, 2x2, 95, 95 wide cross. There it is. A thing of beauty. Clean, simple, full field read. Good versus all coverages. So here's a different drawing. This time SMU, keep it in the family. Same type of play. Literally the exact same play. Ace 95, 2x2 open. Again, must outside release go. Hey, there it is. More go. You're welcome. Speak air raid. Here's that quick out or choice or option, whatever the hell you want to call it. Here's the true Y cross element of it. And again, all these teams draw it differently, right? Notice there's no dotted line. Notice there's no hot element. Notice there's no man zone elements. You know, I wouldn't say the air raid guys are the best diagram play guys. Okay? That's no shot. That's just the reality of what they do and what they don't do well. You know, some of the greatest ever, Mike Leach, there's no playbook at all, right? Which is a bummer for videos like this. But you can see here how they kind of attach and teach this route can be different, right? Just a simple way to be able to kind of make sense of what's going on here. Now you can see the coaching points here, right? Let's go through it nice and slow. Cross, under Sam, over Mike. Where have I heard that before? Aim for 15 to 18 yards opposite hash. Where the hell have I heard that before? Okay, there's 15 yards. Okay, so not a great drawing. 15 to 18 right there. Work flat versus man. Heard that before. You are hot. Heard that before. Okay, so the drawing doesn't represent the description. Okay, so they're more readers at SMU. All right, one more iteration of this kind of ace 95 just from the modern Texas Tech world. Okay, again, you can go through and read exactly what it says here, but we've talked about it. Must outside release fade. Jet route, 5 yard speed out, whatever, quick out. Must outside release go. Here's that crosser, under, over, get over here. Now, we do have a hot drawing. Thank you, Texas Tech, for caring about the quarterback's health and well-being. And then the backside, they're running that post curl. Again, coaching points. Under Sam, over Mike, crossing route, depths optional, 3-step slant if hot. All right, I like it. You should have a great grasp. This is exactly what we're talking about. 2x2. What is the read? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, working right to left. The read is left to right. The routes are coming at you right to left. Another 2x2 we're going to talk about here. Now, this is Iowa State, a little bit different, a little bit outside the family. Hey, no offense. But why I want to talk about this specific one is how they have this thing drawn and taught down here at the bottom. Okay, so the first thing here, 2x2, must outside release go, something in the flat. Great. And then we're going to get into this crossing route. Okay, so the cross route, how they're talking about it, is one thing I want to talk about, this element of it. So we haven't really seen that talked about much. So release under the Sam or nickel, over the Mike. Great, we know that, right? Under the first, over the second. Feel the field safety and see the boundary safety. Okay, so now we're doing a lot of things. I haven't even talked about seeing the field safety, so I would consider the strong safety and the free safety. See two people while you're doing the under-over thing. Sure, why not? Okay. Attack green grass. Tell me your air raid. Verse man, stair step. We talked about that, right? Up and come across and flatten. Great. Verse cover 2, wide safeties. We're going to divide or hit the pipe. Now, that's this element of it. Okay, so I personally like this element of it. Under, over. We're going to have 2 split safeties. Middle field open. Let's hit that thing. Boom. As opposed to trying to run across, if this guy's a half field player, trying to run across and flatten that out in front of his face. I like the idea of hitting that thing like that. Now, I think that happens very rarely on this play. But again, I think there's a lot of same as principles to a lot of offenses that run different iterations of whether that's all go special or however you term that kind of pipe divide element of hitting between the safeties. So again, that middle field open look What are we going to do? He getting half field, he's playing quarters. How are we handling that? He's coming down, he's getting to the middle of the field. We got to see that backside safety if we're this crosser. But I love seeing it described this way as just, again, a different, you see so many different ways. I mean, shit, how many ways is this drawn just in this video? A lot of nuance, a lot of detail, a lot of feel, a lot of high football IQ going into this kind of rep. And again, when you hear me say, we're only going to run it one way, so right to left here, it's because there are so many reps invested in this. It's because you get twice as many reps as trying to teach the left slot to do the same thing. Now, maybe it's the same guy in your system and you can bounce him around. Okay, a little bit. That makes a little bit more sense to me. But I get why you potentially would only want to do this one way, because there's so many options and different iterations that this crosser can do, and no two routes are really the same. So now we're going to go back to that old-ish Oklahoma book. This is now not at a 2x2, right? This is back to the original image I showed, that blue 95. You're welcome. We're going to take it all the way back. So really, the read doesn't, necessarily change, right? Must outside release go. How's the cross getting covered? Is he covered from here? If he is, this is 3. If he's getting squeezed from up here, this is probably 3. So 1, 2, where's he getting covered? 3. But again, if we're going through the kind of the reads here, right? Just read this thing. You're welcome. Cross hot. Awesome. So we got 7-person protection, but this guy's also somehow hot. Okay. Obviously it works for them. Okay. It's not how I would want to do it. And again, we'll talk about why I wouldn't want to do it like that in the con element of this video at the end of this thing. But it's tough in my mind to be one over here, hot over here. That's just not how I want to play football. Next here, same Oklahoma book, we've got the 3x1 iteration of this. Now, there's a lot of different things you can do here with this number 2. Okay, so the number 2 to the 3x1, most teams will have you do the quick out. And the reason I like that is because it's the same as if he was the number 2 over here. So the H just has the quick out. That makes sense to me. I know, and I've heard from the gurus, that Mike Leach evolved into running more kind of post-ish out of this number 2 to clear that thing out and again get that maybe potential big shot if the safety creeps down on the crosser. Now again, to me that seems like it would take forever, but I get it. The only thing I don't like about it, and it was explained to me at a high level, that if you take this and run a post here, now you've got nothing in the flat to pull that flat defender to work this backside curl or backside whatever route. So you can see kind of the positives and negatives about being able to change this route. But I think universally, it's often run like this. And again, air raid 3x1 early, you're never going to see it at a late or 3x1 to the left because they're not going to run 95 to the left. Or at least Mike Leach wasn't going to. Now that same Oklahoma book, we're now going to get into, I think they called this Dart 95. To me, this is a little bit more of how this play is more universally applied. So not just old school ace 95 Y cross or ace 95. This is how a little bit more how I played this play and taught this play and how I think it's best run, if I'm being honest, in modern offense. So I think of this as on the backside here. So up top, this side of the field, this is Y cross. So universal crosser, whatever your number 1 route is, they're running curl, post curl with that check swing. That's great at a 2x2. In my opinion, you can put whatever the hell you want down here as a 2-person concept. So we could put like China. We could put post corner. We could put whatever, inside fade, locked hitch, which they're running right here. So say this guy is not the fastest guy in the world. Now we want to, and I think maybe Dart just switches these two in the air raid world. So the H is now outside. It doesn't really matter. But the concept of inside fade instead of, so inside fade locked hitch instead of must outside release go 5-yard quick out, I could see there are certain instances where I definitely like inside fade a hell of a lot more than the Greg Roman special, right? And again, Mike Leach evolved to running more saily or kind of you could 10-yard could stop and settle out of that thing, run out versus man, those types of things. So there's different things you can do here. I like thinking of it, and this is what we're going to get to next, is I think of this as this is Y cross the concept up here. Now, this might be blasphemous to the CERT community, but this to me is Y cross. This down here can be anything. You're only limited to your own imagination as far as what you want to do. You could do 3x2 empty, right? So we could have 3 eligibles down here and do a 3-person like shock. You can run stick, inside fade, locked hitch. You do whatever the hell you want with Y cross coming to you on the backside. So again, to me, it's more of a half field concept as opposed to a full field play. Now, again, I'm not certified. I don't run air raid, but I do hijack their good plays. And this certainly is a hell of a good play with the Y cross. So this last image I'm going to show here is from the high school that I coached at and the offense that we ran. Now, we're not going to go into how we name these things, but how I taught this as a half field concept. And it was always the backside concept. So there would be something to the front side, which would be probably the 1 and the 2. And then this crosser would be coming across. And again, you can see my drawings. Okay, inside wide receiver always has the over. Okay, now we called it an over versus a cross because this over was the same as what we did on the naked. Okay, so I gave them the same landmarks, same as. Okay, this is high school, not NFL, not high-level Power 1, high-level college football. So our landmark was split the difference. Okay, that's kind of the split. Split the difference between where the number 1 lines up and the offensive tackle or the inside eligible and get to 20 yards on the numbers. Okay, now if it's man, you could flatten it out. That's what that little dot meant. Okay, but if it was zone, I wanted you to get over to the numbers and then you could settle. That didn't always work that way, but that's how we taught it. And again, I didn't get into the under over part of it at all. Okay, we didn't run it a lot. We used it a lot in play action, but in the drop back world, we didn't. But you can see here, the route kind of takes you under over, right? So I kind of eliminated all the nuance in the coaching because it's high school, dog. We didn't have time to do that. This is the route. Run it like this, get to 20 yards on the numbers. Great. Do we want you to be a drawing on a piece of paper? No, you got flexibility. Get over there. Versus man, separate. Create some space. But the landmarks, the true landmark, 20-yard numbers. That's where we expect you to be. Okay, now the number 1 that we use, and I love this, I stole this from a bunch of different places, is, the curl is great versus zone. So post, but we want to post. So if we catch quarters, so say this is a strong safety, and he comes down at all on this over or crosser, well, then we want that post. So post till you can't. So come out of the chutes flying. If you can win to the post, take it. If you can't, settle up on that post curl. So whatever the front side was, 1, 2, here's 3 to the over or cross, and there's 4 to the PCR. And we called it a PCR. And this play crushes souls. Okay, now you got to have a quarterback who can throw 50 yards. But if you've got a guy who can get it up, this is a 7-on-7 killer. You'll dominate fools in a 7-on-7 season. Okay, so I love a good PCR on the backside. Post, curl, read, and we spent a significant amount of time doing play action, comeback, over or cross, PCR. 1, 2, 3, and you got to be able to throw this thing now. It's not a short throw, but wide receivers love it because they get an opportunity for a touchdown. So that's how we ran it. With, again, the teaching point being whatever the formation, right? Here's 3x1. We never ran it out of quads, but you could have. And again, you can see I had the number 2 going in the flat. I think we actually evolved that be on a wheel. But PCR doesn't change. Post till you can't, curl at 15. Well, our cross was called an over. Inside wide receiver, under, over, get to your landmark, 20 yards. Boom. So the pros for 95 Y cross are really pretty simple. It starts and stops with the fact that it's a great play or route versus damn near every coverage. So it's going to have an answer to every coverage, really except 2-man, I think, is a really tough look with that inside hard man coverage and a safety over the top. But even that, it's got some man opportunities if you can slip inside or stair step or set them up and run across. Now, the good versus everything is a great crutch for a lot of play callers because they can know that we can dial this up and it's got an opportunity to win versus damn near every zone coverage and most man coverages. Now, is it good versus every single defense? Maybe you get some guys that would say yes to that. I don't love the hot answers, but I do think it is good versus every coverage. 2-man might not be the crosser. It might be the number 2 on the front side. It might be the whole pipe shot with the must outside release go. It might be the backside runaway winner if you allow them to kind of run away versus man. It can be a number of different things. But man, that Y cross route versus damn near every coverage has got an answer. And if it's a really high level football IQ player with a lot of feel for you, it's got the opportunity to win and be successful a lot. So now the cons for this play, or reasons maybe why I dislike it or don't like it as much as other people. The first thing, and I don't know if this gets stated enough, but in my experience, that crossing route takes forever. It just takes a long time to develop. And so you've got to really have some solid pass protection or really be face and drop 8 to think that you're going to have time back there to sit and let this wide receiver run 15 to 18 yards across to the opposite hash, or 20 yards to the opposite numbers, or 22 yards out of bounds, under, over, make a man zone read, make a coverage read, and be able to be on the same page consistently if you're facing a difficult, tough pass rush. And so it just takes a long time. Like, not only does it take a long time to develop, it also takes a long time to get a feel for it, to teach. You've got to, you might have a lot of guys try to learn this route, but most teams or programs are only going to have a handful, if not one, that you trust to run it consistently in a game. And that's, again, why you see it one way, is that slot to the right is kind of the default guy who's got that feel and all the reps to be able to make all those reads. Because if you're asking him to get under a linebacker, over a linebacker type, see both safeties, have a bunch of different run and shoot vibes where we can settle, we can run away, we can, stay friendly, we can stair step, we can hit the pipe. That's a lot of stuff. And it just takes a long time to develop. Not only a long time to develop, but a long time to work on the practice reps, the feel, the investment, the ROI on that type of route is significant. And so you have to be cognizant of that as you install it, rep it, practice it, get it game ready. Now, the other part for me that I just struggle to get past, and I know it's maybe my issue more than other people's issues, I just don't like having the hot route. So the Y cross element of running a slant or that quick peak drag on one side and having my number 1 read on the other side. I'm not saying it's impossible, and I'm even acknowledging the fact that some quarterbacks could care less. Obviously, some offense coordinator could care less. I just think it's very difficult to take a shotgun snap or take a snap, peak hot this way, potentially if you think you're going to get hot pressure, reset to your number 1 to the opposite side of the field. Again, not impossible, but you're here for your boy's take on it, and I think it's a con of the play. I think if I was running this play consistently, I would want the hot to probably be if you're running at a 2x2 open, that quick flat or that, vertical must outside release hot. Those types of throws to me make more sense. Again, not certified. Okay, maybe there's a reason that I can't think of. I got to acknowledge the fact that I got a bunch of blind spots. So I'm just telling you, I don't like hot over here, number 1 read over here. To me, that doesn't make sense and is not how I would construct the play. But regardless of those few cons, you have to acknowledge this play and route is everywhere. And it's everywhere for a reason. It's obviously a well-established play that people love in the air raid system. And you can see it bleeding over into all levels of football. Even if they don't call it 95 or 95 wide cross, you can see the idea of that deep cross all over football. And so you have to have some level of understanding of how to play the thing and how it's read and felt and feel and the timing of it. So hopefully you got a lot out of this video. I had fun putting this one together. This one took some time. I acknowledge the fact that, I might not be anywhere close to a high level expert in the air raid world, but I do have a little bit of application of being able to pick and pull the best parts of it, in my opinion, and overlay it to teaching maybe lower levels of football. So hopefully you got that element of it. Next, if you want to see the film cut-ups, make sure to hop over to the Quarterback School Patreon community. As for this video, that is a wrap. Thank you so much for hanging to the end. I will see you next time. Have a good one.